Hey there, friends. Have you ever felt a little worried about your health lately? Maybe noticing you're more tired than usual, or wondering if those extra cookies at the family gathering might be catching up with you? If you're over 55, here's something that might make you pause. Diabetes is one of the biggest health risks for folks our age, and if you don't take steps to manage it now, it could lead to serious issues like vision loss, nerve damage, or even needing daily insulin shots. Things that could stop you from enjoying the little joys, like gardening in your backyard or taking your grandkids to the park. But what if I told you that you can lower your risk of diabetes with a few simple changes to your diet? Stick with me because today we're going to explore 3 easy diet tips to keep you healthy and thriving. Today, we're diving into something that can help you feel more in control of your health, especially if you're concerned about diabetes as you get older. I'll walk you through 3 practical diet tips to lower your risk of diabetes using foods you probably already have in your kitchen, like whole grains, berries, and leafy greens. We'll go through each tip step by step so you'll know exactly what to do, why it's good for your health, and how to make it part of your daily routine. I'll also share real stories from people just like you, along with some simple ideas to get started today. So, grab a cup of tea, get comfy, and let's start this journey to a healthier you together. Let's break this down into 3 simple diet tips that can help you lower your risk of diabetes. And I'll explain everything in a way that feels like we're chatting over coffee. Let's start with the first tip. Swap out white bread for whole grains to keep your blood sugar steady. I know how much we all love a good slice of white bread, whether it's for your morning toast or a sandwich at lunch. But white bread can cause your blood sugar to spike quickly, which isn't great for your body. Why is this so important for us as we get older? After 55, our bodies become less efficient at managing blood sugar, and those spikes can increase your risk of type 2 diabetes over time. Whole grains, like whole grain bread, brown rice, or quinoa, are packed with fiber, which slows down how quickly sugar enters your bloodstream, keeping your levels more stable. A study from the American Diabetes Association found that people who eat whole grains regularly have a 30% lower risk of developing diabetes because fiber helps your body handle sugar better. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 62-year-old from Chicago. Margaret always loved her white bread. She'd have it with butter every morning, and it was her go-to for sandwiches. But a few years ago, her doctor told her that her blood sugar was creeping up, and she was at risk for diabetes. She was worried. She didn't want to end up on medication, and she wanted to stay active to keep up with her grandkids. Her daughter suggested swapping out white bread for whole grain bread, and Margaret decided to give it a try. She started having whole grain toast with avocado for breakfast, and she switched to brown rice for her dinners. At first, she thought it wouldn't taste as good, but she was surprised at how much she enjoyed the nutty flavor of whole grains. After a few months, she went back to her doctor, and her blood sugar levels had improved. She wasn't in the danger zone anymore. Margaret told me, "I didn't think something so simple could make such a big difference. I feel more energetic, and I'm not as worried about my health now." How can you start with this tip? It's really easy. Next time you're at the grocery store, whether it's Walmart in the US or Tesco in the UK, look for whole grain bread, brown rice, or even quinoa. Try swapping out white bread for whole grain toast in the morning, or use brown rice instead of white for your next dinner. If you're not sure you'll like the taste, start small. Mix a little brown rice with white rice until you get used to it. This small change can help keep your blood sugar steady and lower your risk of diabetes, so you can keep doing the things you love. Now that you've got whole grains as a tool to keep your blood sugar in check, let's move on to the second tip. Add more berries to your diet to fight inflammation and improve insulin sensitivity. Berries like blueberries, strawberries, or raspberries are a sweet treat that's actually good for you, and they're easy to find in places like the US and the UK. Why is this so important for us as we age? As we get older, our bodies can become more resistant to insulin, the hormone that helps control blood sugar, and that resistance can lead to diabetes. Berries are packed with antioxidants, especially something called anthocyanins, which help reduce inflammation and make your body more sensitive to insulin. A study from Harvard Medical School found that eating berries 3 times a week can lower your risk of diabetes by 26% because those antioxidants help your body manage sugar better. Let me tell you about John, a 67-year-old from Manchester, UK. John had always been a bit of a sweet tooth. He loved his biscuits and cakes, especially with his afternoon tea. But last year, his doctor told him his blood sugar was too high, and he was on the path to diabetes. John didn't want to give up his treats, but he knew he had to make a change. His neighbor suggested adding berries to his diet, and John started having a small bowl of blueberries with his breakfast. Sometimes he'd mix them into his yogurt, or just eat them on their own. He also started keeping a bag of frozen strawberries in his freezer to add to his smoothies. At first, he wasn't sure if it would make a difference, but he loved how fresh and sweet the berries tasted. After a few months, he went back for a checkup, and his doctor was impressed. His blood sugar had gone down, and his insulin sensitivity had improved. John told me, "I never thought something as simple as berries could help so much. I still get my sweet fix, but now I feel better about my health." How can you start with this tip? It's super simple. Next time you're at the store, grab a pack of fresh or frozen berries. Blueberries and strawberries are great choices, and they're easy to find at places like Safeway in the US or Sainsbury's in the UK. Try adding a handful to your breakfast. Mix them into your oatmeal, yogurt, or just have them on the side. If fresh berries are too expensive, frozen ones work just as well. They're often cheaper and last longer. Aim to have berries at least 3 times a week, and you'll be giving your body a sweet boost that helps lower your diabetes risk. With berries helping your body handle sugar better, let's move on to the third tip. Eat more leafy greens to control your weight and reduce your diabetes risk. Leafy greens like spinach, kale, or Swiss chard are some of the best foods you can eat, and they're a staple in many American and British kitchens. Why is this so important for us as we get older? Being overweight is one of the biggest risk factors for type 2 diabetes. And as we age, it's easier to gain weight because our metabolism slows down. Leafy greens are low in calories but high in fiber, which helps you feel full longer, so you're less likely to overeat. They're also packed with nutrients like magnesium, which helps your body use insulin more effectively. A study from the University of Leicester in the UK found that eating leafy greens daily can reduce your risk of diabetes by 14% because they help with weight control and blood sugar regulation. Let me tell you about Susan, a 70-year-old from Seattle. Susan had always struggled with her weight, especially after she retired. She found herself snacking more and moving less. Last year, her doctor told her she was at high risk for diabetes, and she was scared. She didn't want to deal with the complications, like nerve pain or vision problems. She decided to make a change and started adding more leafy greens to her meals. She'd have a spinach salad with lunch using a simple dressing of olive oil and lemon, and she'd add kale to her soups for dinner. At first, she wasn't sure if she'd like the taste, but she found that spinach and kale were actually pretty mild, especially when paired with her favorite grilled chicken or a sprinkle of cheese. After a few months, Susan noticed she wasn't as hungry between meals, and she'd lost a few pounds without even trying. When she went back to her doctor, her blood sugar levels had improved, and she was no longer in the high-risk category. Susan told me, "I feel so much better now. I'm not as worried about diabetes, and I have more energy to play with my grandkids." How can you start with this tip? It's really easy to add leafy greens to your day. Next time you're at the grocery store, pick up a bag of spinach or kale. They're affordable and easy to find at places like Kroger in the US or Asda in the UK. Try adding a handful of spinach to your sandwich at lunch, or toss some kale into your soup or stew for dinner. If you're not a big fan of the taste, start small. Mix a little spinach into your scrambled eggs in the morning. Eating more leafy greens can help you manage your weight and lower your diabetes risk, so you can keep enjoying the things that matter most to you. Now that you have these 3 diet tips in your toolbox, let me give you one extra tip to tie it all together. Be consistent with these changes and track your progress to stay motivated. I know it can feel overwhelming to change your diet, especially if you're used to eating a certain way, but small, consistent steps can make a big difference. Why is consistency so important for us? Because your body needs time to adjust to these new habits. And when you stick with them, you'll start to see real results, like better blood sugar levels and more energy. Dr. Emily Carter, a nutritionist from Boston, says consistency is key when it comes to preventing diabetes. It's like watering a plant every day to help it grow strong. Let me tell you about Robert, a 65-year-old from London. Robert was at risk for diabetes, and his doctor told him he needed to make some changes to his diet. At first, he tried these tips on and off. He'd eat whole grains one day, but then go back to white bread the next. He felt frustrated because he wasn't seeing any progress. But then he decided to get serious. He made a plan to eat whole grain toast every morning, have berries 3 times a week, and add spinach to his lunch every day. He also started keeping a little notebook to track what he ate and how he felt. After a month, he noticed he wasn't as tired, and he'd lost a couple of pounds. When he went back to his doctor, his blood sugar levels had improved, and he felt more in control of his health. Robert told me, "Keeping track of my meals helped me stay on track. It made me realize how much these small changes were helping me." How can you be consistent? Start by picking one meal to focus on, like breakfast, and make sure you include whole grains or berries every day. Keep a simple journal or use a notes app on your phone to write down what you eat and how you feel. If you miss a day, don't worry. Just pick up where you left off. Being consistent will help you see results, and it'll keep you motivated to keep going. Let's recap everything we've covered today. We talked about 3 simple diet tips to lower your risk of diabetes after 55, plus an extra tip to help you stay on track. First, we looked at swapping out white bread for whole grains to keep your blood sugar steady. Then, we talked about adding more berries to your diet to fight inflammation and improve insulin sensitivity. Next, we explored eating more leafy greens to control your weight and reduce your diabetes risk. And finally, I gave you an extra tip. Be consistent with these changes and track your progress, because that'll help you stay motivated and see results. Together, these tips can help you lower your risk of diabetes, manage your blood sugar, and give you more energy so you can keep doing the things you love, like taking your grandkids to the park, tending to your garden, or enjoying a quiet cup of tea with your friends. I know it can feel a little scary to think about diabetes, especially when you hear about the complications it can bring, like nerve pain or vision loss. But you don't have to make huge changes all at once. Just start with one small step, like adding berries to your breakfast this week or trying whole grain bread for your next sandwich. You deserve to feel healthy, strong, and full of energy no matter your age. As Dr. Emily Carter said, your health is like a garden. Nurture it with small, loving steps, and it'll bloom beautifully. So, let's make a promise. This week, try at least one of these tips and keep going, one day at a time. You've got this, and I'm here cheering you on every step of the way. If you found this video helpful, I'd love for you to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more health tips for seniors. Your support means a lot, and it helps us share more ideas to help you live your best years with health and happiness. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Which of these tips are you most excited to try? Maybe you're thinking about adding berries to your breakfast or swapping out white bread for whole grains. Let me know. I read every comment, and I'd love to hear from you. For more tips on staying healthy after 60, check out our video on preventing heart disease with everyday habits. Take care, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.